Today we welcome to the show Kelly Shores, winner of the 2023 Spartan Death Race. Today we talked about something everyone can relate to, fear and perseverance. Kelly is from Fredericksburg, Virginia, where she is an endurance athlete, CrossFit Kids coach, bonus mom, and in 2023 was the only woman to finish the Spartan Winter Death Race. What made her do it? How did she train for it? And how did she mentally and physically complete it? Answer these questions and more on this episode of Crackin Backs.
All right. Kelly, it's great to have you on the show. We're very honored to have somebody of your caliber on the show. As a fellow Spartan, I did have to get you because I was totally blown away when I got the Instagram notice about this death race. And when I started reading through it, I was like kind of blown away about what a death race was, because I've seen a lot of extreme stuff. I have a lot of friends and patients that do the extreme stuff, but I hadn't heard anything about this death race. So for those listening, this woman was the first death race finisher for 2023. So I got to hear you describe for the listeners, what is a death race?
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. It really was an honor for you to reach out. What isn't a death race? I think is the better question. Every single race is completely different. I know that when I saw it, I saw an ad. I always get caught with a coupon situation. So I saw a coupon and I signed up, and I signed up for the summer death race. And I just thought, oh, you're going to be carrying heavy things. You're going to be doing thousands of burpees, but every single race is so completely different. They can last anywhere from 50 to 72 hours. I think that's the legal limit where they have to cut it off. Our race ended up being right around 60. And they have us in the water. They have us crawling through the snow. They have us with our sandbags and our heavy weight. And there's all of the physical challenges, but then all of the mental challenges as well, which was really the hardest part for me, I would say.
Wow. Is it true you got to fill out a death waiver?
Yes, there is a death waiver, and my mom was so upset about it. I told her that I had signed up and that I had this coupon and I had signed up, and she said, "You are not really going to do this." And she was crying. She was so upset about this death waiver. And I said, "Oh, well, Mom, like, they can't really let you die." And then when you read the waiver, it literally says, if you die, then you can't hold them liable. I mean, that's literally what it says.
Did you ever have a moment where you go, what the heck am I doing?
Oh, I mean, over the last 4 years, I had several moments that way. You know, so the winter race for 2023 was actually my third attempt. And leading up to that point, I had so many moments of thinking, why am I doing this? What am I actually doing here? How did I get involved in this? And, you know, then you find yourself on the mountain in this moment of reflection, and you're laying in the snow and thinking, oh, I know why I'm here.
Well, what was that answer to that realization?
It was truly a matter of, I needed to figure out my own life. I needed to find myself. I was really lacking confidence when I first started going into some of these races, and you find yourself alone on the mountain in the dead of night in the snow, and you think, I can freaking do this. Like, I have prepared. I am out here. It's I think at that time it was like hour 40, 45. And you're like, you know what? I can do this. I have prepared for this. And it just was really a big confidence, self-realization thing for me.
Hold on. How many people start this madness? How many people start this race?
The winter race is notoriously less because it's winter in Vermont. The summer race, I'd say typically about 50 people sign up. I think about 25 show up to the start line. And the one summer race that I've done so far, I think 4 to 5 people finished. The winter race had about 25 people sign up. 12 people showed up to Vermont. And actually, when I showed up to Vermont, you got a pre-race advantage. So if you made it to the top of the mountain by a certain time, you got an advantage in the race, but they didn't tell you what that advantage was. And I was thinking, I need to have all my gear ready. I'm going to be starting the race 12 hours early, was my line of thinking. I didn't make the time hack, but I did run into one of my fellow death racers, and he actually hiked with me. And then he didn't come back to start the race the next day. So we actually had 12 people come to Vermont and only 11 started the race, even though he was there. He was on the farm. He was on the mountain, and he didn't end up actually coming back to the race, which was really sad.
Kelly, how many finished?
Three of us finished.
That means who? You?
Myself.
And 2 others?
Yep. 2 other guys. Yep.
2 other guys. Jeez. What do your friends think when you tell them that you're doing this?
So my very best friends and I actually have a tradition. This is when I go to the summer race, it'll be our 4th time, but we have what's called the Last Supper, and we have a big meal before I head out. And it's this big joke that we eat whatever I want to eat. And we actually have a sign now. It's a hand wood carved sign that's the Last Supper, and we all take a picture with it. But they think I'm crazy. Like, there's really, a lot of concern.
I'm sure your mother really appreciates that one.
Oh my gosh. My poor mother.
I can't, I have an affection for Spencer's mom, and I can't imagine what she would be going through if Spencer had to sign up something like this. Hey, I got to ask you something. Yeah, she would call me. Yeah. I would be in so much trouble. So you mentioned something like your friend showed up at the farm and he didn't start the race. Can you kind of go back and explain that? Because like a lot of Spartan races are just, you show up, you do the race. This is like a 2-part thing.
Yeah, sure. So this race was different. There's all of these, the mental piece leading up to it. They send you a last minute gear list. So you have a gear list, and then they send you a second or a third part to the gear list, just things to kind of screw around with your mind. And on the Wednesday before the race started, I was at the bottom of the mountain, and I got an email from the race director, and she said, get to Shrek's cabin by 4:30 and you'll get an advantage. So immediately everybody's, senses are flying off. Do we do it? Is this a trick? Is this not a trick? Well, I was in a position that I was so anxious anyway that I was like, well, let me just go and see what this is about. Because if I get an advantage, great. And if I don't, then the race directors will see I really freaking want this. So I misread the email a little bit, and I thought, oh, I just need to get to the farm by 4:30. So I showed up at the farm with my husband dropped me off. He dropped off. I had my pack. I was on my snowshoes. I am dressed to go. And I see another car pull into the parking lot. And it's my friend RJ, who has been out. We went out on the summer race together in 2021. So I start hiking, and I realized at that time, oh, I don't need to get to the farm. I need to get to the top of the mountain, which, by the way, is a mile straight up on the shortest course. If you take the switchbacks, it's 2.5 to 3. So I start hiking with my friend RJ, and we're getting a little confused because there's snow, and oftentimes when you go to Shrek's cabin, you go in the dark. So it's a little different in the daylight. So we're hiking up, and we make it to the top, and we miss the time hack by about 30 minutes. No one's up there, and we're like, okay, well, you know what? Well, at least we tried. We snapped a picture together at the top of the mountain, and thank goodness he was there. He had his headlamp. I had ditched my gear. So we had his headlamp. He helped me navigate, and we got down to the mountain, found my gear, and he actually gave me a ride home. And I said, see you in the morning, RJ. And then the next morning we show up to the race, and the race director says, well, you were at Shrek's with RJ. Where is he? I said, I don't know. He dropped me off at my hotel. Like, he's here. And he had emailed her and just said, you know what? My heart's not in it. I've had my death race experience. He had driven from New Mexico. So he drove about 33 hours to get there. And I was so thankful that he was there, because I would still probably be wandering around on the mountain if he wasn't there. So I was so thankful that he was there. But that's it. It's that mental piece that your heart and your soul have to be in this race to even show up, really.
What?
So basically, they're giving you small tasks the days before, and then you have to complete those in order to
So you didn't have to complete that. You didn't have to complete that. That was just if you wanted the advantage. And they didn't even tell you what the advantage was. I later found out that if I would have made the time hack, that I wouldn't have had to get in the water the whole race, which we ended up getting in the water 9 times. So it would have been an amazing advantage. But yeah, and also leading up, you have videos. You have to be interviewed by a media source of 1,000 followers or more. You have to send in training videos. I mean, they have to see you really want this, because, you'll have your folks that just want it for the gram and will show up, and they haven't done any of the work to truly want to finish.
Wow. What? How do you? Okay. I imagine once you start, you are committed. But how do you have any moments where you question up until that time you start, or how does it work for you, and how do you maintain that focus?
Yeah, there's a lot of times where you just question, that because it's daily working out, it's daily just thinking through. I actually decided to be vegetarian in anticipation of this race. Or I would say vegetarian, primarily vegetarian. Sometimes I have some fish, but there's a lot of mental pieces that it's like I could just change my life around and not do any of these things. But the experiences that I've had on that mountain have totally changed me. So I say all of the mental pieces going up to it were worth it.
All right. So, okay, let me build a foundation here. What were you like growing up? Did you play sports? What was your personality like that led up to doing these monumental experiences?
Sure. So I did play sports growing up. I ran track. I was on the swim team. Hated swim team, but I was on the swim team. I played tennis. I also ran, and I also hated running. I was reasonably athletic, but a lot of the athletic pieces that I did because my older sister did them, so I had to do them too. I went to college. I was not athletic at all. I never went to the gym. I hated it. And then I got out of college. I got a job. I was working just, normal government contracting. I work in finance. And again, the coupon, my friend who I worked with came to me and she said, "Hey, listen, I got this thing for my son for Christmas to this gym, and he's not going to go. So do you want it? I just don't want it to go bad." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it's free. I'll do it." So I joined this gym and I really, really liked it. And it was such a great outlet for me with the stressful work environment and kind of stressful personal situation I had going on. So I joined this gym and I was working out, and I remember going out to the bar one night with my friend, and it was her birthday. So we're celebrating, and I saw a commercial for a Spartan race. And I said, "I'm going to do that. A couple drinks in, you can do anything." And I was like, "I'm going to do that." And I looked to the person I was with and I said, I'm going to do that. And he said, "You could never do that." And I was like, "Screw you." And I signed up right on the spot. And that was how I got involved in my first Spartan race. And that was in 2016 is when I started that. And ever since that point, I don't know you guys' experience with this, but if I sign up for a race, it's more motivating for me to work out. I have to be working towards a goal. And so I would say I celebrate my fitness anniversary every year. It was truly in 2016 that I really became like athletic. And the trifecta. You do this the sprint, and then the super, and then the beast, and then you end up doing an ultra beast. And we were in Hawaii on our honeymoon doing a trifecta weekend. Because what else do you do on your honeymoon? And I remember I saw an ad for the Spartan race, and they were running the coupon, and I said, "You know what?" And I signed up for it, and my husband was like in the other room, and he comes in and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I just signed up for a thing called the Death Race." And he's like, "What?" Like, I was only gone for 15 minutes. Like, I don't understand. So that's kind of the progression of how we got here.
You picked the perfect man to marry.
We actually met because of this gym and Spartan racing as well. And now he's just like, people ask him all the time, like, "Are you okay with her doing this?" And he's like, "I don't have a choice. Like, she's going to do it." So.
Wow. Right there, David Goggins has a great saying. People ask him all the time, when he does his 240-mile runs on bad knees, they think he's crazy. And his answer is always, "I'm not crazy. I'm just not you." And so you probably get the same responses. Mm-hmm. "Are you crazy? What are you doing? Why would you do this? You're married, all that." So what's your, that's his answer. What's your answer when people say you're just
I just kind of laugh. I mean, sometimes you just don't even know why you're doing it. You're just like, "I'm doing this thing because I want to." You learn a little something about yourself and about how you want to be in life. I want to be 80 years old and still able to move around. I want to help others. I want to inspire others. Like, I've been able to convince friends and family to do these races. And I just think I can do this. I'm physically and mentally capable of doing this. So why wouldn't I?
So, Kelly, what actually is in the race? Now the nice thing is that you did track and you swam in school, even though you hated it. But now you're doing in that race. I imagine you're doing all that plus plus plus. What are some of those features? I know they're different per race, but what are some of them that really impressed you the most?
Sure. So they have a piece. It's notorious, Shrek's cabin. I actually have a tattoo of Shrek's on my arm because it was so inspirational to me throughout this whole process. But they always have you running laps to Shrek's, and there's different ways to get there. But they always have you going up and down to Shrek's. Most of the time you have to bring something up, you have to memorize something and then come back down. So they typically get you like 24 to 36 hours in. They have you trying to memorize things and then you have to come back down. And if you don't remember it, then you're penalized. There's always burpees. In the winter races, they always have snowshoeing, which I live in Virginia, so we don't really get a lot of snow. So I learned how to snowshoe in the race. They always have you in the water. I remember my first race, they had us, and the water in Vermont is never warm because it's Vermont. And they had us moving river rocks from the bottom of the mountain all the way up to Miguel's cabin. And you have to set up a system. I think there were maybe 12 of us that day. And some folks are in the water. Some folks are like midway up and you're just carrying these rocks. In this past winter race, they had us in the water, like I said, 9 times. We were expecting maybe 1 or 2, but we were in 9 times. Fire starting is a really big thing. Chopping wood. Sometimes they have you eating things, like they had us bring hamburger, which I was really, really nervous about because I don't eat meat. So I was a little bit concerned that they were going to have us consume that. And I thought, well, would I be willing to do this? So I hacked it a little bit and brought fake meat, just in case they had us eating it. They a whole bunch of running, a whole bunch of physical stuff, but then just like really long training movements of how long will this person do this before they drop out. Like they had us hopping through the snow for 6 hours with our shoelaces tied together. And why? They just had us hopping back and forth. You'd get a clue and then you'd hop back. And there was one point I was just like, dear Lord, beam me up, Scotty. Like, take me out of here.
What was the hardest thing that you thought maybe you might not get through?
I would say definitely in the winter race, it was the snowshoe course. The year prior, they had them do a marathon, and that was kind of the last piece of the race was a marathon snowshoe. And I remember that day, it was the second night they had us start on the snowshoe course. And I was the girl, I was behind the other 2 athletes. They're my brothers now. I was just behind them. They're faster than me. And I hadn't eaten anything all day. I had a piece of gum and we were just moving the whole time. And I had some electrolyte gum. And I thought, okay, I'm going to bring some protein water in my pack with me. I'm going to bring some food and I'm going to slowly get my nutrition back up so I can continue on because you just don't know when the race is going to end. And I got out on the snowshoe course and my snowshoes kept coming off and I drank the protein water and I immediately was sick on the mountain. It was just the wrong move. And I crawled all 6 miles just through the snow. It took me over 4 hours. I was just crawling and I thought, I was laying on the ground and I was like, I don't know that I'll make it through this. Like and you get so far away from the farm that you think, what? I hope someone comes and finds me because I'm just like in the woods and it's dark. And I knew how far ahead they were. And I thought that if I made it back to camp that they would just cut me. And so when I got back, I sat, the race director said, here, come have a seat. And I sat down and she said, how are you? And I said, I really need to eat something and drink water. And then she said, okay, go do that. And I came back and I said, am I being cut? Like, cause I knew. And she said, no. And I was like, oh, okay. And that gave me my spark of energy to get back in. But at that point, I just really felt sure that I wasn't going to make it.
Wow. You know, I saw one video of you guys standing on a lake, chopping a hole. And then jumping in, and a lot of people got pulled from that, or they got penalized. So what was that task that you guys had? Did you have to like submerge for like 20 seconds or something like that, or was it more?
So they tried to name it something fun. We just called it the Chips Ahoy, and you knew you knew that when you chopped the hole that you were going to fall in. So I thought, let me take all of my outer layers off so they don't get wet, because I knew I was going in. And so you chop around and you fall in. And I was so angry because I dropped my axe into, and I was scared I was going to like fall on my axe because that water is not very deep. So once you got in, I think that we had to submerge for like 20 seconds or something. But I had practiced from the year before, because the year before they had us submerging for 15 seconds and I could barely make that. But I thought, I know what to do. You put your head under the ice and you just wait, and you just breathe and you just wait. And I think a lot of people who didn't have winter death race experience, it makes you feel like you can't breathe, like you feel as though you're suffocating. And I think that that's why a lot of people were just really freaked out by that task.
Wow.
That's like the cold plunge on another level.
Yeah. All I kept thinking of was Wim Hof, like just breathe. I'm Wim Hof. I'm in this water.
You know, it's funny because I'm in Florida and there is no icy lakes, icy nothing. So when you guys actually started out by saying you chop a hole and then you go into the water, and I'm thinking, well, is it like a wood plank that they're chopping? And then what's the big deal? And all of a sudden I realize you're talking about ice.
Right.
Well, so, you know, I have to, honestly, I got to tell you, I've never met you. I didn't hear a whole lot about you until Terry sparked this concept of this beast of a woman that doesn't look like a beast, but acts like one. And, you know, I'm out there running early this morning at sunrise on a beach. I'm in pain. I promise you, I went like, after I found out about you, I go, WWKD, what would Kelly do to get through this 4 miles on the sand against the wind? And I now I get to meet you and I go, you know what? I mean, it is so impressive that you're doing all this. You mentioned something about nutrition though, and obviously that can control your whole world. What have you learned in how to prepare nutritionally for events like this? Because I'm sure it's very particular.
It is. And I am just someone that if I don't like something, I can't muster through it and eat. You know, a lot of folks eat the MRE packs to get all the calories. I just can't. It makes me feel very sick. So my first race, I went out and I thought, I'm going to bring tuna and I'm going to bring all of these healthy things. And I ate Sour Patch Kids. That's what I ate the first race. I was going to lie and make up that I ate something else, but I didn't. And so I actually quit my first race. They did not drop me. I quit because I was over it, you know, and I was hungry and I was very ill. And so over time, you know, you do the Ultra Beast and you just learn what you like. And so I found that with my stomach, I do really well with baby food. And I had heard that from another ultra racer that it just digests really well. It doesn't sit heavy and you can get the carbs and the calories. And, you know, I'm not out there bringing cheeseburgers like the Barkley Marathon finisher who just finished. He was eating cheeseburgers. I'm not going to do that on a course. So I found these packets, vegan packets that had 10 grams of protein in them. And I got a bunch of different flavors and I ate those for pretty much the first like 30 hours of the race, but then you just get sick of those. So you have to bring variety. And then the second day I just ate gum. And then the third day I had an apple. I really like apples, like just kind of that fresh, like not processed thing type of food. So yeah, I've learned a lot about that, but that's what seems to work out pretty well for me is the baby food and then something fresh and the gum. I love the gum. I don't know why.
How does your weight fluctuate? What do you weigh yourself before and after?
No, and I should, and I always forget to do that. But I just haven't. I think the first time I did, and I lost about 8 pounds, but I didn't this last time. So.
Oh my goodness! You know, I can't help but notice you have a thumb ring, and and I'll tell you why. Because many years ago there was a personality study done on women, and each finger means something. Well, I'll just cut to the chase and tell you that dominant, highly motivated women with leadership attitude wear tend to wear thumb rings.
I had no idea.
Not as a fashion statement, but as an attitude. It's just something they do because it's different.
Yeah. Well, and this is a skull. This is
that's
a skull.
why I wear mine.
So.
Even more funny. No, it's cute to see. You have your nails painted, your hair's cute and everything, and yet you're an animal out there. I love the contrast. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Do you get other girls, younger girls, because we're at a time right now where mental health is such an issue. Do you inspire them? Do you get any comments of how they look up to you and you're our hero type of thing going on?
I do. So I am a CrossFit coach. I coach a kids program. I could never do adults, but the kids have worked for me. So I actually have I would say about half my class is girls, and I have a lot of their parents say that. I don't see myself as like a inspiration or anything. I'm just here to coach your kid and make them a better human. I also have I'm a bonus mom. So I have one little girl, and I have her go to the gym, and she loves to work out. I don't ever push her to say, you have to do this, but she'll always ask me for a workout, and she wants to work out right next to me. And that's so important to me because I want to motivate by action. I don't want to motivate by, you have to do this, or I'm going to force you to do this, because that's one way to get a kid to stop real fast. I love my kids program. I love coaching my kids and my own babies. I love watching them just get excited about working out. They actually had to go with us to the winter race in 2022 because their mom got sick with COVID, so they couldn't go back with her. So we all took an adventure to the mountains of Vermont, and they left me up there because they had to come back. So I caught a flight back. And they were really concerned about just like leaving me on the side of this mountain.
Oh my gosh, that's great. You lead by example, and that's probably the most powerful leadership approach, leading by example. And there's so many girls out there. I hope it catches wildfire, because your personality is one that seems to really connect very well. You're animated, you're just a likable person, and that's perfect chemistry for leadership. So I hope it goes
Thank you.
far for you. Is there, what do you want to, is there anything you want to do with this to, really move forward? I mean, I can't imagine, do you want to do another death race? What?
Yeah, I'm signed up. So I always try and look at it like, I have my short-term goals, and I have long-term goals that obviously they're there and I'm aware and I'm working towards, but how do you eat an elephant, right? So I am attacking just the next race. So my next goal is to get my summer race. I want to have 2 skulls in 1 year. That's kind of my goal, is to have the winter and the summer. And then after that, my goal, which my mother really hates, is that I want to have 5 skulls. That would be 5 finishes. That would be the most finishes that a female death racer ever has. And then after that, my mother is really upset that I'm attacking the Barkley marathons. So I shared that with her a couple of weeks ago, because I had already talked to my coach and asked if it was just even a realistic, because I think it's important to have realistic goals. Like, I'm obviously never going to be an Olympian, but what's something realistic that I can tackle? And so I just messaged and said, is this even a realistic goal for me? It's something I followed for a long time, and I never thought I could do it until you finish the death race. And you're like, maybe I could even consider that. And he's like, absolutely, it's realistic. Like, let's get you there. Marathon? So the Barkley marathons are in Tennessee, and it's an ultra marathon. It's over 100 miles. You have 60 hours to finish it. You have to get, so it's a lot of land navigation. And you don't get a medal at the end. Like, you go out and you have to navigate this wilderness at Frozen Head State Park in Tennessee. And you have to rip a page out of the book when you find the book that's hidden in the woods, and you bring it back, and you have 5 loops that you have to complete. And no woman has ever finished that race. There was a racer this past year, Jasmine Paris, and she started on the 4th loop, and then she didn't make the time limit. So.
Wow. While my partner's trying to gather his tongue and his his lungs. I do have to ask you something. So, your training. Let's go back to your training, because this race is kind of like a BUD/S Special Forces. We've had on the show, we've been very fortunate to have some Navy SEALs and Special Forces guys on, and they've talked about the BUD/S program. And that's kind of what, tromping through snow, going under ice, carrying heavy sleds or heavy metal boats up mountains is very much like a Special Forces program. And I'm sure that's where some of the inspiration comes from. But what's the most challenging part of the race for you? You are a woman. You're the only woman to finish it. So I don't want to talk about from a man's perspective. From a woman's perspective, who's a stud athlete, what's your most challenging part, and more important, how did you
I would definitely say the most challenging part of this specific race was the water. The winter death race I did in 2022, I actually had stage 2 frostbite, so I was close to losing my toes. And I was pulled from the race for that reason. So going back, I was really nervous about getting frostbite again, because once you have frostbite, you're more likely to get it more quickly. And my mom, my poor mother, she was so upset about me going back, because I don't have feeling in my toes. They do turn black. That's real. And it took me a whole year to just recover my balance and my ability. Like, I couldn't even walk. So I was really, really nervous about going back and being in the water, because then your body is using so many more calories. And then when you get out, you don't want to wear your shoes in the water. So now you're stepping on the ice. So there is a photo of me out there, and I have my toes lifted off the ice because I was concerned about my toes actually touching the ice and progressing that process. So I was really nervous about the water. And I actually, everybody was going in the water, and I was doing fine in the water until I lied and had a penalty. So I said that I had a piece of gear that I actually didn't have when I went to the top of the mountain. So they penalized me and said I had to do 4 minutes underwater, or I could do 3 minutes underwater and 300 burpees. And I just broke down. I was just crying. At 4 minutes underwater, cumulative was just outrageous to me. So even 3 minutes, I was like, I don't know that I could do this. So I got in the water and I just started going. And every time I would come up, the race director would say, just go under. And she's stopping the timer. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I hit the 2.5 minute mark and was like, I am not doing those freaking burpees. I am staying in this water. I'm going under. And I just kept putting my head under the ice. And I could hear them screaming at me, like, you've got this. And it was just this moment of, I'm here and I'm going to do this thing that I never thought that I could do. And then I was really thankful that I didn't make the time hack with not being in the water, because that moment was just such a life-changing moment for me. Like, I can do this, So I was really nervous about the water and about the cold, just because of my frostbite. But ultimately I came back out, and they warmed me up, and I didn't have any issue with my toes after that. So,
for all those listening, you have to watch the video when this comes out on YouTube. And just at this moment, I want you to go back and focus on my partner's face. The entire time you were talking about that, his mouth was gone. He didn't know what to think. I'm sorry, but you are the first guest we've ever had that had my partner's face so contorted that God bless you, Kelly, because that was.
Kelly, that's hilarious. 'Cause I don't even realize it. You ever watch a boxing match and you start to bob and weave?
Yeah, right.
That's what I'm very empathetic, so I feel your pain and anguish. So I was actually embracing. I didn't even realize. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. That is impressive. That is absolutely impressive.
So impressive.
Hey, you answer questions so well that we are going to do our classic rapid fire questions. You do well under pressure, obviously.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm sure you are, Kelly. You're probably ready every minute of every day. Okay. All right. Rapid fire question number 1. What is the one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
Oh, geez. That I love to sleep. I could sleep forever. I could sleep 10 hours a day and still wake up and think about going back to sleep. I love sleep.
That's great. That's great. Number 2, what was the most memorable moment of the race for you? What did you learn from it?
Sure. So on the second night, they had us sawing wood in our sleep. And I remember, or we weren't sleeping. I was like half asleep though. And I remember going down to the pond and I started hallucinating. I was seeing these figures made out of wood, but they were just tree stumps. But I saw them and they were army crawling up the hill at me. And I was so freaked out. And when I got back to the barn, I must have looked bad. And I told the race director that I had seen these figures and she told me to go with the guys. They were sawing trees down somewhere else. So I went over there. Then they had us hike to Shrek's mountain with all of this wood. So I probably had 150 pounds of wood on my back and I'm like lunging up the hill and they are too. I mean, we are struggling. We get to the top of the hill. The light is coming up over the mountain and it's so cold and we're having this beautiful moment all together, like my brothers. And they were like, you know what? We should take some smelling salts. And I was like, okay. And I don't even remember if I did or not, but I do remember being at the top and then being so excited about these smelling salts. So that is one, I would say that like 12-hour period was just such a memorable period.
Oh my goodness. Every story is fascinating. Kelly, number 3, what is your one superpower?
My superpower? 3. I can convince my husband to let me buy anything I want. So so the other reason why we're in Maryland is because I own a small vintage business and I find things and I fix them up and resell them or, whatever. So I remember I was with my husband and I saw this giant 6-foot farm scale and I was like, I need to have that. And so he said no, which no is just yes. And so I convinced him to let me buy this farm scale. He said, you have to get it delivered, you have to get the price down, and you have to raise all the money for it. And I did. And now that 6-foot farm scale sits on our front porch.
No. First of all, I can only imagine what a farm scale is because, South Florida, city slicker. I have no idea. I can only imagine that it's really big and obnoxious. Is that possible?
It is. It's like, and it's not functional at all. It literally sits there. And right now it has a blow mold. It has a blow mold on it. I mean, that's what it does. So it probably weighs 1,000 pounds. I mean, it's like not functional. But,
Terry,
but we didn't have to go get it. The guy delivered it, so it was fine.
Oh yeah. Oh, bonus. Terry, what's a blow mold?
Of course.
You've never seen those, like the blow molds? They're like those plastic Halloween and like Easter from the 80s, the blow molds. Yeah, I'm really into those too. So
okay. You know what? I think we're going to have to have your husband on as a guest someday, just so what it's like to be married to Kelly.
Yeah, they did interview him during the race. They did. They were just like, so what's it like? And he was just like, I can't tell her anything, that
is great. Question number 4.
Okay.
When you're going through the shit, what mantra do you use to basically climb out? What do you say to yourself? Is there a mantra that you say to yourself over and over again?
Yeah. So actually for another challenge in this race was I had submitted my Let Me In video on the day of St. Crispin's Day, the speech, and that was October 12th, I think. And one of the race directors who wasn't at this race, which I was so upset about, but he said, you have to memorize the St. Crispin's Day speech from start to finish. So I memorized this 3-minute speech. I bought a crown and everything. And he said I was going to have to present it at the beginning of this race. So for months, I memorized this speech in preparation to present it to him. And on that second night when I was going up the snowshoe course and I'm like crawling, I was saying the St. Crispin's Day speech to myself the whole time.
Do you remember any of it?
Do I remember it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it long?
Because I think, what's that?
How long is it?
Like 3 minutes long.
Terry, do you know it?
No.
Go.
I'm good.
Come on. Can you remember?
I can't work under pressure like this. it starts out, okay. It goes, what's he that wishes so? My cousin Westmoreland? No, my fair cousin. If we are marked to die, we are enough to do our country loss. And if to live, the fewer men, the greater share of honor. And so it just continues on and on. But that piece was the piece that I kept saying to myself, the fewer men, the greater share of honor. And while I want everybody to finish, and like, of course you become so bonded with these folks, like you become even more bonded with the few that finish because you know what you've been through with each other. And that's why, like, I refer to the other two finishers as my brothers, because like literally we were so bonded by the end of it. Like there was an agreement. If one of us didn't finish, none of us were finishing. That was the agreement.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And if there was only one skull, which they kept saying, we were going to split it in three. I mean, we were just that bonded.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the cool. Kind of camaraderie and relationships that keep you driven. I love it. Question number 5, last one. How do you celebrate your accomplishments?
So, as a person that doesn't eat meat, I actually celebrate with fried chicken. Because, so I stopped eating meat because of all of the fat associated with it. Was impacting my performance. And so for me, I just don't do well, like physically, with a lot of animal fat. So when I finish these races, I just want a piece of, and it has to be Kentucky Fried Chicken. It can't be Royal Farms. It cannot be, gas station. It has to be Kentucky Fried Chicken.
No, I was wondering which one.
It has to be Kentucky Fried Chicken. Yep. And then I feel pretty ill. And then I'm like, okay, well, we'll just do this again in 6 months. So it's fine.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah. That was awesome. Yeah, you talked about your 2 other brothers and the 3 of you that finished, and you were the only woman. So it's kind of cool to have this camaraderie where they don't look at you as a woman. They don't look at them as guys. It's just 3 brothers and sisters of 3 family members that finished. Right? What do you contribute to a lot of people that don't finish and that do fall short? What makes you different?
I think for myself and Andrew, this was his 3rd attempt as well. I think that we were both just so focused on, this is it. Like, we have done this before. We are not going to be dropped for any reason. And I think some people, especially first time, racers, they get in their head and they just think, oh, well, the race director told me that if I do this, then I'm out. Well, it's all a mental game. So there's always ways to get back in. Or you start to make excuses like, well, gosh, my finger really hurts. So I don't want to make it worse. So I'll just drop it and just be safe, And I think that you start to get in your own head and you start to make excuses. And I think for me personally, I had such a personal drive to finish this one that I didn't care if I had a broken ankle. I was going to finish this race. And I think that Andrew was the same way. Ryan, who was a finisher as well, he's never done a death race, and he finished the winter death race. He's literally referred to as Robot Man. Like, he is a machine. He can just shut down all of his emotion, and you have to shut it off, because they will get in your head. There was day 2, they started screaming at me, telling me, you're never going to finish. You're a loser. You're never going to finish. They're heckling me. And I did start to get really upset. But I didn't want them to see that. So I was crying with my back to them. I'm hopping away with my shoelaces tied together, and I was just crying. And, and I just was like, I can't let them see this. And I have to just move past what they're saying to me, because I know I'm good enough. I don't care what they have to say. And I just couldn't let that get into my head for the rest of the race. I just had to keep moving and just kind of shut it off.
Wow. That is phenomenal. There's a saying, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And you obviously took this to the extreme. And what is it you're trying to learn? What do you learn from this? And what would you say to others about that experience?
I think that we live in lives that are so comfortable. We always have, warm showers, and you can always get a coffee on the go. And you just think, are those things important? What's truly important? And I think about, I think it was, for me, it was just this isn't so bad. You know, we are so comfortable with just like everything that we have in our lives. We always have the phone. We always have our phones. We always have access to basically anything. And when you turn all of that off and when you don't have those comforts anymore, who are you as a person? You know, are you a good person? Are you a kind person? Who are you as a human? And I want to be a good human at the baseline when I don't have any comforts, when I don't have anything, when I'm on the side of the mountain with nothing. Who am I as a person? Am I happy with that person? Would other people want to be around me as that person? And, you know, I feel like these experiences just help you figure out who you are as a person. And I want to be a kind, good person.
Wow. Well, you know, you just described the epitome of something I was just listening to and that I always understood and yet, that I always wondered about actually. And that is, how is it that, you know, very well-to-do families oftentimes have offspring and kids that become, you know, drug users, jailbirds, you know, or just, they are off track, and you think, well, how is that possible? Or yet the ones that their families struggle,
Mm-hmm.
they become something more than what they were exposed to. And Tony Robbins just mentioned something the other day about, you know, comfort elicits weakness, discomfort, you know, strengthens you. And that's, you know, it's one of the 6 human needs is to be uncomfortable, a desire to be uncomfortable. And that's what you're epitomizing here with that, you know, with your approach. Do you have brothers? Did you have brothers, or what was it like growing up? What bred you to be this way?
So I am the typical middle child. I am a girl of 3 girls, and my poor dad.
Not
I
what
mean,
I expected.
my poor dad. But I am the typical middle child. I am the peacekeeper between family members. I feel like I kind of fit into that role, but I also like poke, you know, and I'll kind of like, you know, cause havoc is maybe a good word. But yeah, I was always the child that like, I was just never right. Like I was just always like a little bit off. And I was okay with that. And like I'm weird and I'm like cool with it. Like my older sister is very like very smart. She just finished her dissertation for her doctorate. She's incredibly smart and very rigid and very like by the book. And my little sister is the rule follower to a T. Like if the speed limit says 35, she's not going 34. She's not going 36. She's going to go 35. And I just was never like that. I was just always like, what could we do to change this up a little bit, you know? And
oh wow.
I think my parents love and hate it. I always like joke with them. I'm like, Mom, you know I'm the favorite. Like, you know this. And she's just like, stop that. You're not supposed to say that. But I just yeah, and we're very close family. Like I see my parents moved. I see them like every day. So yeah, we're a very, very tight family.
That definitely surprised me. I did not expect you to have all sisters.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought for sure there was a brother in there that really was mean and nasty and pushed you to the limit, but no.
No, I was the mean one.
Yeah. So if you were to share some inspiring thoughts with our listeners and our viewers, what you've learned, what would be something, especially in this era right now where there's a lot of comfortable kids and they're developing weaknesses, what would you share to, you know, really inspire and strengthen those mentally and physically?
I would just say like your mind is your biggest thing that's holding you back. As someone that didn't work out and like loved to go to the bar and wasn't like physically in shape at all, you can do it if you set your mind to it, you know. That was how I started Spartan racing, and that was how I trained for 4 years. You know, I had 2 failed attempts at this death race, and I just said, I'm not failing again. I don't care. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. And I think that you just have to make it up in your mind and be okay with it. You can't go out and do these things for other people. And that was one of the speeches that they gave us at the beginning of the race. Matt Waller, who's a 5-time finisher, he's part of what they refer to as old guard. He finished like in the early, like I would say like 2015 timeframe, and then the race there was a hiatus. But he said that he's like, you have to be out here for you. You can't be out here for, a family member, or like you have to be here for yourself. And you have to be in a position that you're making life choices for yourself to be a better person, and other people see that through you. And I would just say that you really are capable of doing anything, but you have to like mentally put yourself there.
I like that. It's good.
So a lot of what you talk about in the last couple of years, fear kind of really immobilized people. And a lot of them develop really bad habits, and they just, we talk about uncomfortableness. How do you face your fears, and what's some tips you have for people that are stuck in that fear cycle?
I don't know if I have tips. I just go. You just go and you do. When always the night before the race, I am terrified. I can't sleep. My stomach is totally in knots, and I am just so anxious. Like I've always been like highly anxious. I'm like type A, like all the time, I like, my husband's just like, you need to calm down. But, I feel like if I sign up for a race, I'm just going to go and do it. And on these things, there's just no thinking. You just have to go and do. And I saw a post a couple weeks ago. It was with the Atlanta Super Race. Someone was so upset about having to go back out. It had been raining, and he didn't want to go back out the next day, but he had signed up, and he's like, I don't know, like maybe I'll just stop. And no, just go and just do. Just get there. And I say that to people all the time. You don't want to go to the gym, just get in the door. The hardest part is getting there. And they say that to us in these races too. But literally the hardest part is signing up, because there's all that fear associated with, well, what if I fail? Well, what about the 50 million people that didn't even come? All of those humans that toe the line at these races have stepped outside of their comfort zone to do this. Just go and do. You're already there. Just do it. And I did. I totally let that fear get to me the first go round. I didn't want to go back up to Shrek's. It was raining. A tornado had come through. All of our stuff was soaked. And I was just like, oh, well, what if I get tired? Like, what if I don't make the time hack or whatever? And I pulled myself from the race, and I could have stayed in. I was so upset the next day, because I was like, dang it, I could have continued, and that's what happens. People live their lives in fear. They don't go and they don't do. And then they just live the rest of their lives thinking like, well, I could have done that, but I don't want to. I could have done that, but I would have failed or whatever. How do you know unless you go?
Beautiful. Before we leave, we've talked about it. I want to know, what is the summer death race about? We already heard of that. The winter is all about snow, snowshoeing, and water. What's the death part of the summer race?
Well, it's warmer out there, but actually Vermont all the time is cold. At night it gets really cold. And actually, I had a friend who was hypothermic in the summer of last year, because it's just cold and it rains all the time. So weather is always a big factor. They have these horrendous thunderstorms. So like I said, the summer race I was there, a tornado came whipping through, and we were barefoot on the side of the mountain. And one of the race directors is like, get off the mountain, get off the mountain. And he's screaming. And you're just like, oh my, like I could legitimately die in this situation. So the summer, it just comes with, you already know you're going to have longer distances. You already know you're going to go out to Blood Route. They typically have you walking barefoot. Like the first year we walked barefoot for about 14 miles. So you just know that you're going to go longer distances. So summer is just unknown, because there is still weather involved, but you're going to go farther, and it's typically like a longer race. Like typically they bring you right up to the 72-hour mark. So.
Holy moly. I don't think you have anything to worry about with a tornado, it would be afraid of you, actually. Oh my God, there's Kelly. Stay away. Wow, she almost kicked our ass. All right. Kelly, I hope you don't mind me asking, and you're more than welcome not to answer. How old are you?
I'm 33.
33. Well, you don't look 33.
Oh, thank you.
And man, not at all. I was really fascinated because you have a lot of energy, a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience. 33 was not what I have guessed.
Yeah.
That you're way ahead of the game.
I appreciate that.
What is something you want to be remembered for?
I think I want to be remembered for being kind and helping other people, and it not being of any benefit to me at all. Wow. I just don't think that's why you help people. I don't think people should be helping other people to like post it on social media or like, whatever. Like, I want to like be remembered for like, that lady really helped me today. And I don't know what her name is, but like she inspired me and she helped me through this thing. She was kind to me. I think that so many people live in a way that it's like, I'm going to do this because it's going to benefit me later. But the smallest thing that you could do is be kind. And that's what I want to be remembered for.
You are phenomenal from your heart and soul and your level of commitment to things. I mean, you are an absolute perfect mentor for girls, women, I mean, of any age, because they're going through so much confusion at this time. Even boys and men, you are an inspiration.
Absolutely.
I love your whole mantra and theme and attitude towards things.
Thank you.
It's great.
Thank you so much.
What is one thing you suck at though? What is one thing that you are just terrible at?
Saying no to shopping.
So I am terrible when I'm hungry. I am like horrible. I am a horrible human. I'm like, when I'm hungry, it's just like, move out of the way. I need to be fed. Like, I just am not nice. I want to be nice, but I can't deal with it. And that's why I knew how bad it was on day 2 when I hadn't eaten anything except a piece of gum. I'm like, I'm going to rip these people apart because I'm so hungry. I'm so bad at that. I'm also, I don't know if you guys go to like a CrossFit facility, but there's this bike there and I am so bad at that bike. I cannot. No, this is the Echo bike. The Echo bike. I am so bad at the Echo bike. And I had this Echo bike workout the other day and I messaged my coach and I was like, did you hear me cursing your name? Because I got down and I just lied down. I just like laid down on the ground because it was so bad. I'm so bad at the Echo bike.
What is the Echo bike?
It's kind of like the assault bike, but it has a bigger fan on it. I don't know. It's the worst. You don't even want to like get involved with it. I like hate it. I'm like hopeful it's broken every time I go in there.
Okay. I think we're wrapping up, but there
we're all good. So there you go. Hey, you know what, Kelly? That was phenomenal. And, from the bottom of our hearts, from Dr. Spence and I, thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, you're traveling. I'm sure you can go.
I'll let you guys know.
She's in the mall.
I love it. And I'm going to ask you ahead of time that when you drop me a text, when you're done with the summer death race, we're going to have you back on because I want to hear all about that as well. So, but we totally appreciate you. Thank you for not only inspiring all the women out there, but you know what? Gosh darn it, thanks for inspiring humans out there, because after this show, I'm going to go out and run, and I was going to go do something else. So, thank you for everything you do for all of us, and we really appreciate you. And you know what, listeners? The first and only finisher of 2023 right here.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It was awesome talking to you this morning.
When you don't feel like getting up off the couch, what would Kelly do? Just remember that.
There you go. All right. Have a good night. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Crackin Backs Podcast. We hope you enjoyed, and make sure you follow our Instagram at Crackin Backs Podcast. Catch new episodes every Monday. See you next time.